Of a late start. Hey, everybody. Always Bookin Comedy. Late start tonight. We're going to dive right in here with Al Ghanekar. Am I saying that right?
Yeah. Ghanekar. It rhymes with moniker.
Ghanekar. Got it. Cool. From Maine, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Portland, Maine.
What a large but tiny place Maine is.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And especially I live in Portland, Maine, the largest city in Maine. It's in southern Maine. And it's like, I was in the north one time, or in central Maine, really. And somebody said, oh, yeah, you're in the other Maine, because it's very different. It's like city and then rural. So,
right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's start with talking about how long you've been doing comedy, how you got into comedy, kind of your comedy origin story. And I just want to say hi to Mark, who's out there in the Carolinas tuning in on the live stream. Awesome. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I mean, the story, it's not going to be really anything unique. It's what a lot of comedians say. It's I was observing stuff and I started writing stuff down, and then I performed. That's the short version. But no, I first thought about doing it in college, and so I was 20. And I mean, back then, 20 years ago, the internet, we had high-speed internet. It was in full swing, but it was just like there was no YouTube yet. And so just looking up videos of tutorials on how to write jokes, it wasn't as easily accessible. But like, it also didn't even occur to me to like look up how to write jokes. I just kind of looked at what my favorite comedians were doing and then just tried to match that. But then I got cold feet at the last second and I didn't go up. And then, that wasn't my first time attempting performance. I mean, I did theater in high school, and then throughout my 20s, I did indie film. And then I just got sick of not performance so much. I got sick of just this starving artist type of lifestyle. Even though I wasn't a starving artist, I had a full-time job. It was still like, I got tired of that. So I just, for 5 years, it was like, I wanted the boring 9 to 5, stable, steady income lifestyle. But then, there's that something it's like you're fighting your biology, you're fighting who you are. And so I started feeling that urge to do something. And so for about a year and a half, I just saw things. I was getting dissatisfied in my day job. I didn't want to work in IT anymore. And so yeah, Indian guy doing tech support, I've got plenty of material on that. And so that's where it kind of sparked, is like, I'd be at work and I might have a conversation, and because I'm the only brown guy in the office, I'm the one who can say like, yeah, well, no, all of our tech support is in, the Accenture's tech support's all in India. I called these guys, and then, the guy says, oh, my name is Brian. And that developed into a bit. And yeah, it sounds like something that anybody can say, it's hacky Indian guy tech support joke, but it's extremely personal to me. Everybody loves it. It's a very big crowd pleaser. And so that was where I started writing stuff, but I procrastinated for like a couple of years. And then finally, after having enough notes and just, it's, you know the feeling, Mark. It's like it's about to burst. And so finally I'm like, just go to that open mic. Oh, but it's a music open mic. Just go. And, barely anybody laughed. I got a few smiles, but I was feeling like that rush of like, I'm doing it. I'm 34 now. I've got more life experience, more to talk about. Everybody's falling asleep. They just want to go home. But I could see something in their eyes that it's like, I'm not really like this. I'm enjoying this motor mouth. Watch him enjoy himself. You know what I mean? Like, I'm seeing that he's having a good time. He's being silly. He's having fun with it. He's clearly afraid of any moment of silent air, because then it's like I have to, nobody's laughing for a split second. I have to fill it with time. And that was my first time. And that's how I got started. So
that's awesome. 20 years ago, do you remember who some of your favorite comics were?
Yeah, at the time, not so much. I mean, definitely Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock, but that carries through to today. Now it's like, I mean, 20 years ago, that's the other thing too, is that it's not like I guess I needed the life experience to learn you have to be a student of what you're trying to get good at. Quentin Tarantino is a great filmmaker because he's a student of film. He never stops learning. At that time, I didn't even know Joe Rogan was a comedian. And yeah, he wasn't as big then as he is now, but it's like, so at the time I can't remember from back then, but now it's like Rogan, Bill Burr, Tom Segura, Dave Chappelle. As far as females, Eliza Schlesinger, Nikki Glaser, Ali Wong, to name a few, and Louis C.K., Jerry Seinfeld, of course, still Chris Rock. And with each one of them, there's a different reason. From one, you learn this, from another one, you realize, oh, I could, kind of use that
Al, I lost your sound. Are you? Hold on a second. I can't hear you for some reason. I don't know. It might be on my end. Now your video is frozen. No, you're muted. Can you? I think on your computer you're muted. Can you unmute that? Like click the.
Oh no, yeah, I got muted. I don't know how much of that did you hear.
Okay, I missed about like maybe 60 to 90 seconds. Can you hear me? This is riveting content. Let's see.
Can you hear me? If you can hear me, can you give me a thumbs up?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you see my thumbs up? Yeah. You still cannot hear me? I wonder if your volume got turned off somehow. Now I can't hear you anymore. Oh, now you're muted. Well, I'm gonna fill some air here. Mark, we'll talk to Mark. Oh, he's back. Al, are you back?
Yeah, and you I still cannot hear nothing.
You can't hear me. Can Mark in North Carolina, can you hear me? Let me try that. Mark. Live.
Yeah, so maybe if you I think you're thinking the same thing. If you close out the studio or something and turn it back on.
Let's see what happens there. Check. Let's see. We're always booking tech issues. Could be.
So I'm waiting on your chat. Are you I still can't hear you.
I can't. Okay.
I'm just gonna make sure my settings aren't causing this. Like that nothing changed over here.
What if you
speakers? Yeah, speakers are supposed to be these. Microphone is still microphoning. Yeah, if you can hear me, yeah, just go ahead and type what you want to say.
Yeah, I can hear you. So I will keep fighting through this. So Mark says he can hear both of us. So Al, I'm going to tell you to hit refresh maybe, but I think you're calling me. Hey, this is going to cause some weird. Yeah, that's terrible.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No.
Yeah, it's on your end. Can you see in the chat? Anyways, Alice from Maine.
Years ago, I would have been dripping in sweat right now.
Well,
but you know, technical stuff happens. Life goes on.
Al runs shows in Maine. Let me ask
oh wait, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it says in private chat. Can you type in the private chat? Because wait, Mark. Oh, okay. Wait. Okay, sorry. Comments. What does it say here? Hi. Okay, I see you in the private chat now. Hello.
Okay, what do you want? What are you looking for in the private chat? Sound is working for the live streamers. Means
unplug your headphones. Okay.
Your end. So.
Sorry about that, Mark. I didn't know.
That's okay. Can you hear me now? Check.
The sound is working for the live streamers, which means it is on your end. Oh, okay.
So, anyways, I'll just talk about Al a little bit. He runs shows in Maine. We're going to ask him about that in a second. Interesting to hear that he had like a very long gap between wanting to go on stage and actually going on stage.
All right, you know what? I'll switch. I'll switch to the.
So
sorry about that. I'm going to switch to just the not the headphones. Speakers. So.
So anyways, Al is
I see. So it should be coming out of the computer now.
Al is definitely the best episode of Always Booking Comedy we've ever had.
There we go.
Really, are you there? Can you hear me?
All right, here we go. All right, now I can hear you. I'm just playing it through my speakers.
Okay, there we
all
go.
Right, we can do this.
We're 10 minutes in. We're only a third of the way through. We got plenty of stuff to talk about with Al Ghanekar from Portland, Maine. He runs shows there. We'll get into that in a second. So, question as we transition out of being a comic into running shows. Tell me about one of your like wins in getting booked that really thrilled you. You were like super excited. I don't know. You got booked on a TV show. You got to do a headlining spot. Whatever it might be, and tell us how it came about.
First thing that comes to mind is opening for Lenny Clark. So that was pretty awesome. So Johnny Peasy, who ran Lots of Laughs, it's no longer a club, but he ran Lots of Laughs. And then, I emailed him, and then I'd follow up with him. You got to follow up in this business. You know, it's important to stay on people, but not annoy them. So I apparently stayed on him just enough the amount of time where he was saying, like, hey, you know, he even told me, he said, yeah, he was like, I got to get this kid in here. He's like, he's really gunning for it. So, he had me do 5 to 7 minutes the first time. And then the second, he had me do a second guest spot. And that was the one where Lenny, he was like, you want to open for Lenny Clark this time? And so that was really awesome because his audiences, he's a big New England headliner. He's got a huge fan base here. His audiences are hot. And so, even though, Johnny calmed my nerves, he said, I just want to let you know, I don't, judge a comic just based on his one act, but it went really well, because it was a nice hot crowd. And, I made sure to comb through my material. And so that was, awesome opportunity. It was awesome when I did the new talent showcase at Gotham, and Jim Gaffigan and Jerry Seinfeld dropped in. And that I just got the joy of watching how it was a bringer show. So, folks are there, and my folks, my cousins, my family, and for $14 and a 2-drink minimum, they got to see, a lot of funny comedians and that. So those are a couple that come to mind.
That's awesome. So Gaffigan and Seinfeld, was that the same show?
Yeah, they both dropped in. So there was a
wild.
whole bunch of comedians, and then Gaffigan came in. He did 20 minutes, and then he, said something funny. He introduced Jerry Seinfeld, and he was just like, "Yeah, I'm going to introduce this kid. He's kind of new to comedy. You got to give him a lot of love. He's just trying this out." And then he said, "My buddy Jerry Seinfeld." So
that's awesome.
And then Jerry did 30, and it was cool because it was some of that material he was working out, and it was like almost polished. It was good, it was polished enough to put on a great show, and then it was fun to see it on Netflix on his special, and such a fun night. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's cool. Okay, so now you're a showrunner, and I'm sure you get those persistent messages. Do you have any tips for people trying to get booked?
Yeah, I mean, I actually wish I got more persistent messages. It's probably also because I'm new at producing, so I only just started doing that last August. And so but I do have comedians follow up, and that's the advice right there, is stay on people's radar. It's like and let me just tell you, any words of wisdom I give, I heard it from somebody else. It's very rare that it came from my own experience solely. And so one thing I've heard before is like, how many times do you have to see a commercial for something you need before you remember that, like, oh yeah, crap, you know what, I have been meaning to get that fixed, and then finally the commercial triggers you to go buy the thing. So you got to stay on people. I was taught that in the beginning. Stay in people's faces, and without annoying them. So I try to like just follow up like twice a month. Maybe maybe you have better advice for me. Maybe is that too infrequent?
Yeah, I don't have great advice there. I mean, everybody, unless you know the person and maybe you run into them in person and ask them, hey, like, how frequently do you want to be bugged? Something I'm trying, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm trying to get into a club, and they have told me verbally that they want me, but it's been like months and they haven't booked me. And so I was sending an email once a month just saying, here are my avails, here's when I'm available, here's a good weekend that would work like 6 weeks from now. I can hold it, blah, blah, blah. And that wasn't working for me. So today will be 3 weeks, and I'm just remembering that I haven't done it yet. but every Monday I'm sending a clip from work I did the week before. So like, hey, just letting you know, I'm still out there. Here's a 45-second crowd work clip from Duluth, Minnesota that happened last weekend.
That is a great idea. That's awesome.
The basic idea is to, just let people know you're working. You're getting better. You're doing stuff, because as a booker, you don't want somebody who hasn't been on stage in a month. You want people who are fresh and are staying sharp. And so I don't know, maybe it's annoying. I don't know if it's going to work. I guess I can report back in 6 weeks or something if I do get booked, but I'll try it for maybe 8 weeks in a row. I'll give it like 2 months where I'm trying every week. And then I might just back off for 6 months. And then maybe I'll run into these people in person or go to the club in person. And I don't know, at some point you also have to realize, hey, either they don't have the spots or you're just not wanted. I mean, one of the tricky things is at like headliners can bring their own features. Maybe they have a local comic they like that they want to have a host, and then there's just no spots available for a weekend. There's not like unlimited spots out there. So I don't have any great advice. But let's talk about you running shows. Let's talk about
absolutely.
So you've been doing it almost a year. If you're talking to somebody new running a show, what are some of the lessons you've learned the hard way?
Around here, right off the bat, I failed like 3 times in a row. Around here, know the market. Around here, there was no demand for it for Wednesday at 8 p.m. in Portland, Maine. There is nightlife in Portland, Maine. Sometimes it's like I joke around how like one time I did a spot in San Antonio, and it's like there I just say I'm a Boston comic, so it's like Portland where, but no, there is nightlife here, there is a comedy scene, but the first show I had that was really successful was actually a Saturday night show, and that not bragging, it's just a fact that show was the first Saturday night show in downtown comedy show in downtown Portland since things started opening up after the pandemic, because there was another place and they just didn't open up yet. And so that was an awesome beginning. Now that show, it has certain things where I need to work on. How am I going to make it its own? Like, at first I had that great successful night. We oversold by 2 seats. But that's also because I had no competition that night. And so, another thing that I've learned moving on to lessons with the lessons is branding. I was trying to see, I learned like within 3 months that I was like, people eventually have to get, I think you told me this, Mark, is that when we were on the phone, you said people eventually will get to a place where they're like, Ghanekar's Moniker Comedy, new brand, wink, wink. Ghanekar's Moniker Comedy, the Ghanekar's moniker. That's what you want comedy in this area. That's where you go look. And you have to build that reputation. You have to put the elbow grease to make that happen. So I learned that definitely brand yourself with something. I'm going to have a separate Facebook page. I have to figure out how to do that. Separate Facebook business page for that specific brand where I put all of those shows. So yeah, definitely around here, the strategy I'm having was, so it's only 2 rooms that I'm running right now. And the second one is with Laughter Effects Comedy. We're doing a show this Saturday. And so I'm a beginner at this. And so I found that it's best around here that when I'm like looking for rooms and I'm trying to contact live entertainment venues, start on the Saturdays as my preference and then work backwards, like, Friday night. And then if we're going to do anything Wednesday or Thursday, another lesson I learned around here, it can't be a pro show. This is not New York City. It's not Chicago. So it has to be like, hey, come on out, watch the comics. It's a showcase. They're going to try, do the polished material, try out some new stuff, laugh with them, laugh at them. I also plan on making shows like that. That's what, that's where I'm going to get my Tuesday night stage time for me and everybody, and with the Wednesday night stage time. And so, those are some lessons right there. It's funny when you fail, you have this moment where you're like, man, whenever I'm watching these YouTube motivational videos about failure and they're like, failure is the pathway to success. It's easy to nod and smile when you're eating cereal on your couch and getting motivated for the day. But when it actually happens, you're like, Oh,
I lost your sound again, Al. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you. Yeah, you can hear me. I can't hear you for some reason. I don't know what happened, but I'm going to respond to that answer. Oh yeah, I can hear you now.
It didn't say it was muted, but then when I shrunk it, it said it was muted. So go figure.
So anyway. A couple of thoughts on what you just said. First off, you mentioned that we talked on the phone. I talked to we got Mark saying that he lost you, but he's back now. Mark, I don't know if it's going to show. Might make that go. Anyways, he mentioned that we talked on the phone about show running, and I love to talk to showrunners about show running, and I gave Al some advice on stuff, and he gave me some tips as well. And it's good to Al was talking about failure. I mean, comedy is all about failing and getting better. You don't quit, you keep going after it, and you get better through the failures. But if you can talk to somebody who's done it before, which is kind of the whole idea of this web series, Always Bookin Comedy, is you get to listen to people who are running shows, hear some of the mistakes they've made, hopefully, stand on the shoulders of other comedians. And I think Al's main point there, which, by the way, Al, I'm seeing the mute icon, so for next time you talk, you might want to unmute. He was talking about basically like days of the week or nights of the week and how those impact shows. For me personally, financially, the day of the week can make a big difference. I have a specific show where I have to rent a theater, and the finances are tough on that show. And I've learned that on weeknights, it's hard to sell enough tickets to break even or make money. But on weekends, I seem to be able to draw more people. The flip side to that, the reason I run almost all my shows on weekdays, I very rarely run weekend shows. I'm lucky I live, I guess, in a place where I can go to destination resort towns or big cities to run shows. But there are two reasons I do it. One, I can get better headliners on weekdays. Like a lot of times I'll get New York or LA comics who are coming into work comedy clubs over the weekend, and they'll do my heard through word of mouth that I'm an option to make an extra $1,000 or whatever on a couple shows. And two, I'm now working a lot on weekends myself. So I like to be stingy with what shows I run on weekends so that I'm available. If a club comes to me and says, hey, we want you to work this weekend, I want to be available for that. I'm featuring at Stir Crazy Comedy Club next month. And I'm lucky that I don't have like a regular weekend show, or else I might not have been able to say yes to that opportunity.
So Mark, it sounds like you don't want to be, absentee booker where you're producing the show, but you're not there and the comics just show up.
What's crazy, Al? I have maybe run 100 comedy shows and I've never not been there for one of my shows. I'm terrified of letting somebody. I know people do that, but people do that who have less production value and maybe care less about the quality of their show. I have just like a ton of equipment and fancy lighting system and recording stuff, and some of that you could probably get around, but
it's your baby.
And there's a quality control thing. So I got a question from the Carolinas. Do venues cost the same on weekdays and weekends? The specific theater that I was talking about, we have an arrangement where it doesn't matter the night of the week, but that's kind of unusual. Generally, venues are more expensive on weekends. Although I do a lot of pop-up comedy shows. So they're basically comedy shows in venues where you wouldn't expect a comedy show to happen. My newest show is in a coffee shop. And they don't care. At night, they're not even open. And like, I know a guy who runs a show at a nursery, like a place where they grow plants. They're not even open on the weekends. So on the weekends would actually be cheaper in that kind of scenario. So, but for like a bar, a lot of bars don't want to have a comedy show on a weekend because they're already printing money. They don't want to distract people from buying more drinks. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into that.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me about a success with running a show. Brag a little.
So the Portland Media Center in downtown Portland, Maine, that first show, that one, what really felt good about that was that not only that it sold out, it was kind of cool how it did too, because we had 25 seats filled, whatever, it's like somewhere between 25 and 30 a week out, and I was like, I told the comics, I said, okay, we're not panicking. It's not, I mean, I needed 34 to break even, but I was like, okay, but it's still, it can be a great show, and my philosophy too is you do not punish if you need to cancel the show because only 4 tickets were sold, fine. But if the show goes on, I will not punish the people who bought tickets for the people who didn't. That is a big thing. I have seen hosts I literally saw a host one time say, guys, why are we here? There's only 8 of us. And, so there's that. But that night, then all of a sudden throughout that week, 55 tickets came in. Most, of course, when I'm an audience to any sort of show, there's times where I'm like, I know I'm going to buy a ticket, and then I buy one the last minute. So, we weren't panicking. And then I was joking with the headliner I had that night was Boston's Peter Liu. And, even he knows what his credits are. Like, it's he's got good credits, but it's not like something that it's, like been on, has a Netflix special, like none of us around here, most of us don't have that, and so I was joking with him that it's like, he has this one awesome picture of him at the Laugh Factory, and it's like a real show. It's not just like him standing at an open mic. And like, I was joking with him that I was like, dude, I before he went up on stage, I was like, I didn't know you were such a draw, man. And, I was like, this is amazing. Like 82, like when you have to, your first show at a new place, you have to be, tell people like, okay, like, you have a new problem now where you're like, after 3 or 4 like hard, nasty failures, I'm like, I don't know if we have let me find more seats. And then I find 2 more seats, and then I squeeze them in there. And like, you don't even know whether you oversold by 2 or 3. And then, that show, because there's been other competition and there's certain weaknesses with that one. First, it was that 82. The universe gave me encouragement, then 40. And then, it's been, I got to figure some things out with it. But yeah, that was a big.
So what do you think?
That was my, because I'm a beginner, that was my only big success so far. So that's it. Yeah.
All right. So what do you? Why do you think that show that kicked off so strong has tapered off? Is it nights of the week, or is there a different variable?
The venue doesn't serve. The venue can't serve alcohol. So you got to say they're fine with you bringing it in. Like the way the venue is like officially when there's video productions going on, there's equipment all over that studio. So no food or drink is allowed in there. For any shows they're like, okay, it's just a bunch of chairs. What's going to happen? It spills on a chair. Like people, you could throw it at the performer. You'd barely scratch any equipment. So I think it's the no alcohol thing. And there is another show down the street that I wouldn't say I'm competing with them because they have a kind of different audience. Their audience is age 20 to 40. Mine is more 30 to 70. And so but I think it's a little bit of that. I think the thing I'm realizing, and it's cool we're doing this interview now, I just realized it like 3 days ago, is there's nothing that makes that specific room, like why would you come there specifically? It's a great venue. So I'm brainstorming ideas. Like it's a great media center. It's amazing broadcast center. So I'm thinking of like maybe broadcast like something like a roast battle or something, more. I want to think of something more creative. That idea is just stolen. But broadcast something for 10 minutes first or whatever, for an hour first, and then, make it like, why should I come there to see your show? I can see a comedy show down the street. Why should I come here? Right. So, yeah. That's my next challenge.
We're ramping up. Do you have a quick road comedy story you want to share? Something funny or bizarre that has happened?
Absolutely. That, man, when you think about it and you're like, why didn't I think about it when he asked? All right. So after a show in San Antonio, I opened for Matt Golightly. That was also awesome. He opens for Fluffy. And so I learned a lot that night. But after, my set, this lady comes up and she's hammered, and she was such a good audience. She wasn't a drunk heckler. She comes up with her husband. She goes, you just have this understanding. I can't explain it, but it's an understanding. And I don't know what it is. And she repeated that like 3 or 4 times. Like, you just have an understanding. And then her husband finished talking to the headliner, Matt. And then he turns to me and he goes, hey, you did a great job too, man. And then they just left. And so I wish I knew what I had an understanding of.
Yeah, everybody, Al Ghanekar, he has an understanding. Check him out online. He's on Facebook and Instagram, comedian AVG. Al, it's been a pleasure. I hope to come work with you sometime in Portland. I get to Boston every once in a while. How long a drive is Portland, Maine from Boston?
Hour and a half to hour and
That's nothing.
to
Awesome.
2 hours,
Cool.
depending on traffic. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for fighting through the tech stuff, Mark.
Yeah.
In the
Sorry so much about
Carolinas.
that.
Thanks for tuning in, Mark. I got an announcement for you. In November, I'm doing a Southeast tour, so I will be rolling. I forget where you live exactly, but maybe shoot me an email, and I'm gonna be rolling through New Orleans, Chattanooga, Tennessee, parts of Florida. I'm gonna be all over there. I'm trying to book that tour right now. And thanks everybody for tuning in to Always Bookin Comedy. We'll be back next Monday with another
Thanks for having me,
amazing
Mark.
guest.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Al. We're going to end the broadcast